Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring something I think a lot of people are looking for, and that's hope. And we're going to be going to kind of an unexpected place for this.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be looking at an ancient psalm,
Okay.
Psalm 23,
Yeah.
and we're going to be using the book Hope to kind of guide us along on this.
Sounds good.
You've probably heard this psalm before, maybe even recited it,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to be going a bit deeper this time.
Okay.
It's really amazing how this psalm has just resonated with people
Yeah.
for centuries.
Absolutely.
Across cultures and faiths,
Yeah.
there's something really comforting and insightful,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not familiar with the Bible.
Yeah. You know what's so fascinating to me is how this psalm uses this really simple
Yeah.
image, this image of a shepherd.
Mm.
And even today, it just taps into something so deep within us.
It really does. And like that opening line, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Right.
It's like, okay, if God is leading, then what do I need to worry about?
That's the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not even just material needs,
Yeah.
although that's in there, but it's just this deeper sense of contentment.
Mm-hmm.
And hope actually makes a good point. It connects us to Philippians 4.19,
Okay.
where Paul talks about God supplying every need,
Yeah.
which is a tall order,
It is.
but that's where the trust comes in, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And speaking of trust, like the psalm goes on to paint this incredibly serene picture. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. I mean, honestly, just hearing those words makes me want to grab a hammock and a good book.
I know, right?
Like, what is it about these images that's
Yeah.
so universally appealing?
I think it's that promise of restoration,
Okay.
green pastures, abundance, nourishment. We're not just talking about physical stuff.
Right.
Like our soul needs that green pasture too,
Mm-hmm.
and still waters.
Yeah.
That's not just about a pretty pond. It's that feeling of calm when everything else is chaos.
Which, let's be honest, that's something we all crave in today's world.
Absolutely.
And hope actually connects this to Jesus being the bread of life in John 6.35.
Oh, wow.
I'd never really thought about it like that before, but it makes sense.
It does, doesn't it? We get hungry physically,
Yeah.
but there's this soul hunger too.
Yeah.
And Jesus offers that deeper sustenance, that feeling of being truly filled.
Mm-hmm. Then the psalm takes a bit of a turn. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. That phrase, paths of righteousness, can sound a bit strict,
I know what you mean, like rule-bound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to get hung up on that.
Mm-hmm.
But, Hope argues that it's not about rigid rules. It's about aligning ourselves with God's character.
Okay.
It's less about don't do this, don't do that,
Right.
and more about becoming the kind of person who reflects God's love and justice.
Mm-hmm.
Like Proverbs 3.5-6, trusting in God's way, not leaning on our own understanding.
Yeah.
What stands out to you in that?
Well, what strikes me is that it's for his name's sake.
Right.
It's not about us earning brownie points or anything.
Yeah.
It's about who God is,
Mm-hmm.
his nature, his character. That's what leads to righteousness,
Right.
which actually brings us to the voice I think everyone remembers.
Oh, yeah.
The one that often sends chills down my spine. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me.
This one always gets me
Yeah.
because we all walk through those valleys. Right?
no.
Maybe not literal death,
Yeah.
but those dark times,
Mhm.
those moments when fear is just a very real presence.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Even in that valley,
Yeah.
the psalm doesn't say that we won't experience those things.
Right.
It's, I will fear no evil, not there will be no evil.
Right.
It's about facing those things with a different perspective,
Yeah.
knowing we're not alone.
That's where the rod and staff come in. Not just some shepherd's tools,
Yeah.
but as Hope points out, they symbolize God's active presence, guiding, protecting, and as Hebrews 13.5 promises, never leaving us.
So even when facing the toughest challenges, you're never truly alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. And then right after this image of the valley, the psalm takes this incredible turn.
Yeah, it's like whiplash almost, right?
It really is.
From this shadowy valley
Yeah.
straight to like a victory feast.
Right. Like suddenly we're hearing, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Like, wait, what just happened?
And that's where hope gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because it's not saying that those enemies disappear or that the valley was an illusion.
Mm.
It's this radical statement of God's power to provide,
Mm.
even in the middle of opposition.
That's a game changer.
Right.
Because who hasn't felt surrounded at some point?
Yeah.
Work, family, even our own internal struggles can feel like enemies sometimes.
Absolutely. And the imagery here is so vivid.
Yeah.
A table spread, a feast prepared. It's not just survival rations.
Right.
It's abundance.
Yeah.
And that anointing with oil as hope reminds us it's that chosen one feeling,
Okay.
like David being anointed king.
Right.
But it's available to you
Mm-hmm.
because of God's love,
Yeah.
not your accomplishments.
It's powerful,
Yeah.
which makes that overflowing cup image even more powerful.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about getting what we need.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that sense of more than enough, even when the world feels scarce.
Right.
It's like John 10:10, where Jesus talks about abundant life.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not just getting by, it's thriving.
Yeah.
And it's right there in the presence of those things that are trying to hold us back.
Right.
Hope connects this to Romans 8:31.
Oh, wow.
That line about, if God is for us, who can be against us?
Mm.
It's almost defiant, isn't it?
It is, and it leads so perfectly into the final verse, which feels like this exhale of relief.
Mm-hmm.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
This is where it all comes full circle, you know?
Yeah.
It started with the shepherd, that sense of being cared for.
Yeah.
And now it's this unwavering promise.
Right.
Goodness and mercy, not just as abstract ideas,
Yeah.
but actively pursuing us.
And dwelling in the house of the Lord forever, that's not just about heaven someday, right? It makes me think of that feeling of belonging,
Mm-hmm.
of being safe and known,
Yeah.
even here and now.
Right.
Like we're already home in a way.
Hope makes a beautiful connection here to John 14:2-3,
Okay.
where Jesus promises a place for us in the Father's house.
Yeah.
It's this sense of ultimate security, both now and in eternity.
Whew. Okay, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But also, like, we've only just scratched the surface.
It's true.
Psalm 23 is so much more than just a comforting poem, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is how hope helps us to see the application of these truths to
Yeah.
our everyday lives.
Right.
Because it's one thing to admire the imagery, but it's another to let it change how we live.
That's so true. So how does this psalm, with all its depth and beauty, inform the way we face our own challenges, our relationships, even just our daily routines? That's what we'll unpack when we come back.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring Psalm 23, and I have to say hope has really opened my eyes to just how practical this ancient text can be.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the poetry of it all, but then the question becomes like, okay, what do we do with this?
Right.
Like, how does knowing God as our shepherd actually change things?
Exactly. And hope challenges us to really think about that. Like,
Yeah.
how does this impact our daily lives?
Yeah.
You know, if we truly believe God is providing for us, guiding us, protecting us, does that change how we approach our work, our relationships, even just those moments when things are tough?
You know, here's what I find fascinating. Hope points out that if God is the shepherd, yeah,
Then we're all part of the same flock,
right.
right? So suddenly those annoying coworkers, that family member who pushes your buttons,
Mm-hmm.
they're sheep too.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't excuse bad behavior or anything,
Right.
but it adds this layer of like, okay, how would a shepherd handle this?
That's such a good point. It's not about being passive,
Right.
but it changes the motivation.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not just trying to win an argument or prove I'm right.
Hmm.
I'm trying to act in a way that reflects that shepherding heart.
Exactly. And think about work.
Yeah.
So many of us are driven by this need to achieve, to climb the ladder,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to feel secure.
Right.
But hope asks, like, what if that striving is coming from a place of lack
Okay.
rather than trusting the shepherd's provision?
Wow.
What if our ambition was more about using our gifts to serve the flock
Yeah.
rather than just feeding our ego?
That is a huge shift in perspective. It's not saying ambition is bad,
Right.
but the why behind it becomes really important. Yeah. It makes me think of that line about the overflowing cup.
Yes.
It's like, if we're constantly trying to fill our own cup,
Yeah.
we miss out on the fact that it's already overflowing because of God's grace.
And when challenges come, which they inevitably do,
Yeah, they do.
that shepherding image becomes so comforting
Mm-hmm.
because we know even in those valleys we're not alone.
Right.
Hope makes this beautiful connection back to the rod and staff, they're not just for prodding sheep along.
Mm-hmm.
They're also for rescuing them when they're stuck.
Is like that feeling of, okay, I may not know the way out of this,
Yeah,
but I know I'm not alone in it.
exactly.
Which for someone like me who tends to overthink things,
Yeah.
that is incredibly freeing.
That's the power of Psalm 23 and what hope really brings to light.
Yeah.
It's not just nice words.
Mm-hmm.
It's a framework for how to live with hope, even when things are hard.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of Psalm 23.
It's a psalm that keeps unfolding.
Yeah.
The more we engage with it.
Yeah.
And hopefully with the insights from hope, you can see just how relevant and powerful it is for your own life.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this journey through Psalm 23. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.